Hello. Hi, thanks for still being here tonight. So I want to share with you something that I think represents a huge opportunity in the world today. So before I started at INSEAD, I was working and living in Shanghai, where I often go volunteer to read English books to children of migrant workers and low-income families. This girl right here, Xing Xing, is one of the brightest girls that I often read to. But some of these schools, even though they were in Shanghai, which is one of the, arguably the largest city in China, were actually in concrete buildings or concrete rooms that have very little resources, some chalkboards, some old rundown books. The other picture that I have on here is of a middle school in Yunnan province, where my friend George taught as an English teacher. He told me that this school actually had access to only one computer, and it was in the principal's office. So I was very surprised that Dell released a study last year that compared the use of technology in education in China versus the US. And one of the key findings that they published said that opinions suggest Chinese students use technology more expansively than US students for learning at school and home. So I was quite shocked by this. So today I want to take a closer look at EdTech in China. First, what is EdTech? It's this buzz term that we've been hearing a lot about. It's short for educational technology, which is the use of technological tools, techniques, or processes to enhance teaching practices and improve learning outcomes. This encompasses things like learning technologies or adaptive technologies such as Blackboard. It could be content platforms or MOOCs, as everybody knows about, such as Coursera and Udemy. It could be digital content creators, such as Smart Tots, who make educational apps for kids. It could also be hardware makers, such as Leapfrog, or even iPad could be considered EdTech. And actually, so in my previous work experience, I actually had the opportunity to go see a lot of Silicon Valley EdTech startups. And one of the really interesting ones was called Dean's List. Dean's List actually collected and analyzed data and used it to assess a child's social soft skills, such as their teamwork abilities and their leadership skills and their diligence and perseverance. So this goes to show how far EdTech in the US has come. Now let's think about China. Everyone knows where China is. But China has a population of 1.36 billion people, with about 16.6% being children of 0 to 14 years old. That's 226 million children that could really benefit from the use of EdTech. Going back to the study that Dell produced, it says, if you read in the fine print, that respondents in China came from predominantly major cities and mostly urban respondents, which leads me to believe that the opinions they published were really from major cities like Shanghai, Beijing, probably representing 4 to 15% of the population. Most of China, however, still have schools like the ones that my friend George taught at, that have access to maybe one computer or maybe no computers, very little and EdTech integrated into their education. But why is this? I mean, technology is actually thriving in China. Sergey earlier talked about Xiaomi. There's companies like Tencent, Taobao that are in the headlines almost every day. It's not like tech innovation is not existent. But why has technology and education in China not taken off? So I want to go through some of the challenges that I think China is facing in this area. One is that China has an extreme exam-oriented educational model. So this means that children from the day that they enter primary school are taught that the only objective in going to school is to pass their college entrance exams, which means that they're great at test taking, but there's no room for creative thinking or innovation. Secondly, there's a lack of teachers that are both educators and are well-versed in technology. So the Ministry of Education actually tried to promote the use of e-textbooks in a lot of schools in China. But because teachers weren't able to integrate these tech tools into their learning, the program never really took off. There's also just a huge shortage in high-quality educational content. So success stories like Khan's Academy are only successful because they're able to continuously create videos that users are interested in watching. This requires a lot of capital and also a lot of time, something that investors right now, or so far, have not been willing to do in China. Lastly, there's a Great China Firewall, or otherwise known as internet censorship in China. This is a problem because, so for example, edX, a MOOCs provider, tried to partner with Peking University to put their content on edX's website. But because YouTube is blocked, most Chinese-based learners couldn't access any of the videos. But it's okay. The government, there's actually hope for China. the government is actually strongly promoting the use of educational IT in their 10-year plan. And if you look at the 10-year development plan for the next decade, they're looking to foster IT talent, turn to a learning-based social system, and provide broadband coverage for schools and districts all over China. And you're seeing the results of this right now. So Unique Do is a MOOCs provider that provides IT training, and they recently raised about 60 million venture capital. They not only have major partnerships with corporations and schools in China, but they also allow students to gain college credit from watching their courses. Another area that's getting a lot of attention is in educational apps, which actually represents 55% of the app market. So this is a huge area because mobile users are actually growing faster than internet PC users in China. But right now the teams that are developing a lot of this have very little experience in user experience and also high quality content. So that picture was actually something that my previous company produced. So what does all this mean? I mean, there's a huge need for edtech in all areas of China, and there's also strong government support. So there's opportunities for investors, for educators, for entrepreneurs in China in this area. So I want to end this with kind of telling you why this is so important to me. I was born in Shanghai, but I moved to the US before I started any formal education. And I was very fortunate to grow up in a country that's always been at the forefront of educational development. But when I moved back to Shanghai as an adult, I was so sad to see kids like Xing, who I knew would never have the opportunities that I once had. And I realized that it could have been me. So two equalizers in our society together today are education and technology. But not all children are born equal. But with the use of technology and education, I think we can bring them all a little bit closer to this. So thank you. Have a good night.